Good friend of mine, good friend of the service center, good friend of our community, good friend of El Paso. Ms. Jo Mascorro has a way of just sharing information with that excitement, with that way, so easy to be able to just implement some of the things that she's going to share with you. And the topic that you see on the screen is very important because we all, not only our kids, but we all have behavior issues, right? We all have behavior concerns. Sometimes we just don't see it because, well, we're the ones who are creating that behavior. But I think she's going to share with you a lot of tools, a lot of ideas, a lot of funny stories probably, that you're going to reflect on and say, yo también hago eso, a ver cómo le hago aquí. O mi esposo o mi esposa hace eso, a ver cómo lo voy a hacer aquí. The goal is this, learning the information that she's going to share with us, we have to take it to heart. And then once we take it to heart, let's take it to our minds so that we can go ahead and pay it forward and follow the steps. My good friend Jo, thank you very much for being here with us. Please, let's give her a hand. So let's go.
Thank you for not saying that exact how many years we go back, because it was before most of y'all were born, if I had to guess. So thank you, Mom, so much.
And we're walking the same way, not because we're trying to do a duet, but you know, like I said, things happen, right? So enjoy everyone.
Thank you. Well, good morning. How are you this morning? Oh yeah, sure, it's Saturday. You're going, what am I doing here on a Saturday? So I can tell you this, you're going to get through about 20 minutes of this morning, and then some of the presentations later on in the day. And within 15 or 20 minutes, you're going to be leaning over to your friends going, you know, so-and-so should have been here. Yeah, because I'm preaching to the choir. I know that. And so we're an audience of parents, we're an audience of consumers, an audience of educators, related service personnel. And I think what you have to remember at all times, and one alluded to that about we all have behaviors. Well, here's what I know for a fact. We all have a brain. That's the bottom line. We're going to talk about the brain, what the brain wants, what the brain needs, and that includes our children. They all have a brain. Now, any of you that are parents, and you have that time where you say, boy, I can't do this anymore. Not today. I don't know what else to do. And you go on and on about the complications because you feel like it's just too hard. I want you to know how smart you are. Did you know that every time you're in the presence of your children, you will always be older? Did you know that? If you're a teacher, you're always going to be older than the kids in the class. So get a grip. By default, you're smarter. Did you know that? And people go, nah, not really. Yes! And everybody has a brain. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I have a hard time being up on these things. So, lots of my fault, no. But I'm going to stay down here because I move around a lot. Earlier, I had a slide up here. Did y'all see that? Many of you see that? I've noticed that there's some phones here about. And here's what I'm going to tell you for this presentation. Move them. Turn them off, turn them on, do not disturb, and get them out of your sight. And I'm going to tell you why. It's an addiction. We know that every time your phone rings or dings, your brain takes a dopamine hit exactly where addicts take a hit. Did you know that? Coke addicts, porn addicts, alcoholics, smokers, any kind of addiction, bam, the brain takes a hit. Who's ever had a child? Now here's the thing. Let me back up. I know there's a lot of parents in here, and I can promise you, I don't like to talk about my child any more than you want to talk about your kids. So we're not going to talk about your kids and my kids. We're going to talk about the neighbor kids. So how many of y'all know neighbor kids who don't do what they're supposed to do when you tell them to do it? Ever seen that? Yes or no? Yeah. How many of you know neighbor kids that have a hard time getting on an iPad or a phone? Yes or no, right? Well, here's the thing. It's an addiction. And we don't think about that addiction. And we as adults have to model. So you're in here today to receive information. So you need to practice how to model, to listen to the speaker, to listen to what's going on, and not be on your device. I'm not saying you cannot use it. I'm not that old. I get it. It's the greatest gift of the 21st century. But what I do know is this. If you need to use it, leave the room, because whoever's on the other end, whoever's on that other end, deserves 100% of you. And you deserve 100% of them. So go take care of business. Then you come back in here and you take care of business for yourself. Do you understand? Now, I'm not going to berate this. I'm not going to go on and on. I just want you to understand that there are children in here. And you're modeling for children. I just gave you a directive and now children are watching you. Just saying. And I'm not even going to qualify what's important. I don't care what it is. It could be your Amazon packages come. It could be your top 5 match are up and you got to swipe and you're concerned. You need to run. Whatever it is. If it's important to you, that's great. But you need to teach with technology that there is time and place. And when you're amongst your friends, amongst your family, that might not be the time. Because our children need our eye contact. They need our presence. And that's what that's all about. So anybody who's going to be on their phone after I've spoken and look at me like burn in hell, I'm not moving my phone. I just want you to remember we're here to talk about behavior. Compliance. I'm just saying. You know, think about it. So we're not going to beat that to it. We're not going to beat that one to a pulp too much. All right, let's go on. Let me see if I can lose this little joint thing up here for a second. Hang on just a minute. Get rid of that. Then we'll go back to the rest. Okay, this is called de-escalation with dignity. And we're going to talk about all kinds of strategies that you can use in complicated situations. A couple of things you need to know. First and foremost, I already mentioned about the phone. We don't have to berate that anymore. We'll leave that be. There is a handout that's available. Looks at a single page. And what I do is I take a particular word and I use letters from that word to help you remember certain strategies. In this case, the word was empower. So if you look down the paper, I took each one of those letters and I'm going to give you strategies that wrap around that. There's also a possibility, I'm not sure if they hand them out or where they're at. Do you know where they're at? I know that there were copies. They might even be online. I don't know. But it's in your bag? Yellow page. Thank you. All right, and if for some reason you don't ever have this, here's the thing. You can find me. When we go back, did you see that title back that was back there? Let me go back. You see, there's my email. stresskillsneurons@gmail.com. Can you remember that? There's my phone number. There's a website that has a contact page. Y'all, just because I'm gone doesn't mean you can't pick up a phone or give me a holler if you have a question. I got an email the other day that's like 2 pages long from a mom about some questions, and we're going to brainstorm until we figure out what's going on. So don't feel like you're alone. You have so many resources. You're going to meet them today when you go from session to session. Juan was so kind to talk about what Region 19 has to offer. And y'all, I go to service centers all over the state, and I'm not supposed to be partial. However, you know how I feel about Region 19. It's stellar. The professionalism is stellar, so please use those resources accordingly, okay? Phone number's up there. If you come to San Antonio, I know the best place for breakfast tacos. You think they're in El Paso. I hate to prove you wrong, but come to San Antonio. All right. The last thing is there's a possibility you might talk to a neighbor. No panicking. It's just a little gathering. But if you hear me say hands up when we're done, all that means is I need you to stop talking so I can continue since we have such a brief time. And there will be an opportunity to share some information as we progress. That's what that's going to be about. All right, here's your homework. You already got homework. How many of you ever sat around and said, man, we need a plan. We need to do something different. This isn't working. We need a plan. Ever felt that in your heart? And so sometimes what we do is we develop a plan, and then what happens is we work really, really hard, but the plan doesn't match the outcome. Who's ever seen a behavior plan? Has anybody ever seen a behavior plan? Did some of y'all's neck stretch when I said that? Like, boy. right? Because sometimes people work really hard on plans, but then the outcome doesn't match. And we don't even realize how much we have to own that. So for example, how many of you as parents want your children to own their behavior? How many of you parents want your significant others to own their behavior? Yes or no? You think about that. Teachers, we want our kids to own their behavior. Yes or no? And then what do? We turn around and we say things like this. If you don't pick that up off the floor, I'm going to throw it away. If you don't get in there and do your homework, I'm not going to let you watch TV. If you don't quit hitting your sister, I'm going to take away the iPad. Who's ever heard that by the neighbors? Right? Okay, then some of you are thinking, my gosh, you're bitter. We're not like that in our house. We're like a kumbaya fest. We love all children. We're kind and we're sweet. And we ooze love and compassion. And the teachers are going, oh my God, have you not been in that Head Start classroom? We just adore all children. It's like herding cats, but we love them all. Okay, well, I'm happy for you, but we do the same thing. The only difference is you got a perky voice and big old honking eyeballs. And you walk around and you go, oh, if you do what I tell you, I'll give you a sticker. If you finish your meal, I'll let you have a cookie. Right? Oh my God, really? The point is this. Do you hear the same thing? If you, I will. If you, I will. You need to take that statement away. Because let me tell you, one of these days, that child's not going to be 3 or 4. They're going to be 12 or 13. And then you're going to say something like, you're going to take that thing away, or you're going to send them to their room, and they're going to look at you and they're going to go, you're mean! You're mean! I'm going to tell that, you're mean! I hate you! Or maybe they're nonverbal, and they're going to smack their head, and they're going to go, ah! Well, you know what? They're still cussing you. Mad is mad. You understand? Mad is mad. It's universal. Happy is happy. But you know, there is no language for behavior. It is communication. So anytime anybody's upset or happy or glad or sad, it's a universal experience. Why? Because we all have a brain. I want you to think about your thumbs. Everybody's got, you got thumbs. If you look at your thumbs, people ask me, who's ever said something like this? Why do they do that? Why did they say that? How could they be that way? And I go like this, check out the thumbs. Everybody goes, what? Check out your thumbs. Did you know that the capacity for the human brain to learn is as individualized as thumbprints? Who in the world has the same thumbprint? I don't care what CSI says, nobody. Nobody has the same thumbprint. Now do the math. Over almost 8 billion people on this planet. 8 billion people with the potential to think differently than you. Which includes your significant others, it includes your children, it includes your neighbors, the people you work with. 8 billion people can think differently than ourselves. I don't know how we get along at all. Everybody has an opinion. This morning you got up as an adult and you had choices. You decided when you were going to get up. You decide, do I hit the alarm or do I let it go a little longer? Everybody in here is wearing something because you chose to wear it. But there are kids out there, they didn't choose to wear that, you slapped it on. You chose how you drove here. You chose where you parked. You chose where you walked in the room and sat down. Our children sometimes, they don't have that choice. The one thing they can control is their behavior. Why would they give it up? There's so many details in intent and outcome that we miss because we're not paying attention. What do we have control over? The only person we have control over is ourselves. So this presentation is going to be about self-thing. What do we do with us to impact our children? That's the only person you have control over. I'm going to tell you a story. You said I was presenting somewhere. I won't tell you where because my work there. But it wasn't in this state. And right before I went on, the Department of Ed people came up to me and said, hey, we need you to know, it was a parent group, there's parents in your presentation who filed a lawsuit. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, almost said it, that place, and it came back. And I said, well, what was it about? Because anybody that knows me knows I'm getting ready to talk about chronological age appropriateness, about equity, about dignity, about respect. They said they filed charges because they wanted their 21-year-old son to remain in a first grade classroom. His entire educational career, he attended a first grade classroom because of where he was with his cognitive abilities. And they know how I am about equity and about diligence and chronological age appropriateness. And they looked at me like, Joe, please, just be careful what you say. And I went, sure. Because what y'all don't know about me is, as I've aged, one, I don't have a filter anymore. Two, I say bird in hell a lot. And three, I can't remember it because I'm at that age, you know? And so they should know me by now, but that's okay. Because at the end of the day, I want to speak truth. I want to, be true to self, right? So I get to the section on chronological age, which we're going to talk about here a little bit. And I get to that section, and I look up and I say, I talk about chronological age appropriateness. Y'all, you as parents are the beginnings of that. If there's educators in here, you need to listen to me. If I hear one more person approach an adult individual who experiences disabilities, and they're walking down the hallway, they're talking to their peers, and I've been in facilities where it's like this, oh, how's it going, da-da-da, they're talking to each other, and then here comes the individual who experienced disabilities, and this is what happens. Oh my God, hey! How are you? Oh my God, I love that show. Who's so cute? Did you not see that guy's like 25 years old? Who does that? Well, what is that? And then, they're functioning in a capacity of, their cognitive abilities, really? That's a man. Now, as a parent, it's hard, because I met with one of my families yesterday, and all of a sudden, my kid's like 27 years old, he's a man child. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, as parents, we are a reflection to the community, to the world, about our expectations of our children. So in that presentation, I looked up and I said, for example, it's my understanding there's a family here who has their son at 21 years old in a first grade classroom. And you should see the people on the back wall. They're like, oh, she's going there. Oh my God. And I said, I have to tell y'all, my brain has been going 1,000 miles a minute. All I can think of what to say is thank you. Thank you for giving first graders the opportunity to experience every year what it's like to be in the presence of a man with a disability. And all I can think about, I don't know this for a fact, but all I can think about are the opportunities that were present. For example, to teach them when you're in a wheelchair and you approach someone in a wheelchair. Don't be putting your hands all over those folks. Don't be doing it. Ask anybody here in a wheelchair, like, what's that? What are you doing in my backpack? What are you doing back there? That's my backpack. And you approach from the front. And if you're going to make physical contact, you touch that hand. I said, what an amazing opportunity you presented with your son to learn, these first graders to learn that. I'm curious what do they call him, Mr. So-and-so or Mr. T, and the parents are looking at me like, what the heck is she talking about? And I said, I have this vision of you wheeling him in every day, and there's a quote on the back of his wheelchair, the thought of the day, and that's what they kickstart the first grade discussion off of. That they teach them that dignity and respect about how to interact with an individual who is hearing impaired, vision impaired, and not able to express themselves. I said, I just envisioned that everybody in the classroom has a signed name. What is their sign name? So when they approach, they can introduce themselves. And they know not to say, it's me, because everybody is a it's me. And the whole time I'm talking, all of a sudden I see that mom and I see a tear coming out of her eye. And when it was over, and the people in the back were looking at her like, you're never coming back. And when it was all over, the mom came up to me. You know what she said to me? She goes, for the first time, she was crying. She said, for the first time in 21 years, I see my son as a man. And it hurts my heart to think that I didn't see it before. And she goes, but I can promise you this. She goes, what you don't know is I have a 13-year-old daughter with autism. And I might have messed up the first round in terms of my thought pattern, but I can guarantee I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to go home and we're going to have a little bit of an attitude adjustment. And I was like, yes, yes, because y'all, it's hard as a parent. They're always our babies. They're always, but we have a quest. That individual is going to, it's mind-boggling. I just lost a student the other day, not the other day, it's already November, that passed away that I started my career with. And y'all, he was 65 years old with Down syndrome and hearing loss and vision loss, deafblind and Down syndrome. 65. When we're in the schools, we don't see our children as aged adults. And what's even crazier is I'm 69. He was only 4 years younger than me. It's crazy to go to these conferences with adults with disabilities and say, these folks grow old, just like the rest of us. And we have a right and we have a responsibility to honor that aging process. And it's going to have to start with us because the world doesn't see it. They just don't. They miss that opportunity. Something as crazy as I can walk in with, I remember once I was with a student, they wanted to, he needed some way to communicate a sound, and they wouldn't put a watch on it that's saying, it's a small, small world from Disney. And I said, well, here, let me ponder that one a minute. No. And some lady goes off on me. She goes, let me tell you something. I go to Disney every year, and I got Disney clothes, and I wear Mickey. And I said, no, I'm happy for you, because I got Tweety Bird, and I have the 7 Dwarfs, and I got all kinds of stuff stuck on me. But when I wear it, people look at me and say, oh my God, did you go to Disney? I love Disney. But you put it on somebody with a disability, and they go, oh, and they treat it like a kid. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but it is. So sometimes just the way we dress our kids, the way we communicate, we speak to our children. People are making comments. I've watched young children in inclusive settings with their peers. A little girl that had angel syndrome, she's just little dimples and she's just so darling and she looks like a toddler. And they carry her around on her hip and she's like 6. I put her down. She's 6. And then when her peers meet her, this is what they go. Hey, Ashley. They have to bend over and then have to look up because they're the same height. And then their peers are going, hi, Ashley, come on. Oh, no, that's not inclusion. I need that child to see that as a peer, as a counterpart, as a child that's my age. And let me tell you, that little ones that are doing that, they're not learning that themselves because they're watching us. They're watching us. And we owe it to our students and our children with disabilities to stand tall and to teach people to look at them as people first, as brains first, and oh, by the way, they come with a disability. And if I've learned anything, being 69, almost 70 years old, we're all kind of funky. Right? You nailed it. We got some funky stuff going on. I had a friend at church one time, and she had started in her 30s a senior program at the church, and now she's in her 80s, still involved in the same program. She says, you know what I learned? She goes, when I was young, I used to think that people grow old and get cranky. And she goes, you know what I know now? Just cranky people grow old. But I thought that's right? It's crazy. So at the end of the day, y'all, it's about intent. As hard as we work, does intent match our outcome? So no more of this if you, I will, taking accountability. Because those are the parents that call the schools and say, why did you put my child in detention? And they go, we didn't put your kid in detention. Well, you looked them in the eye and said, if you hit, I'm going to put you in detention. Yes, you did. Tell me if you hear the difference. Tell me if you hear the difference. This is old school. If you don't finish your homework, I'm not going to let you go outside. That's old school. Tell me if you hear the difference. Not doing your homework tells me you don't want to go outside. I think everybody goes, Sitting in that recliner, you know, sorry, that's not nice. Let me back that one up. If you don't get out of that recliner, I'm not going to cook you dinner. It works for a lot of people. Staying in that chair tells me you're not hungry. Are you hearing the difference? Hitting your sister, you don't hit your sister. If you hit your sister again, I'm going to send you to your room. Hitting your sister tells me you want to go to your room. You hear the difference? Yes or no? So now what you're going to do is you're going to practice that, but here's what's going to change. They're going to look at you, if able, and they're going to say, I didn't say that. No. You're going to get some kind of, I didn't say that, that's not what I want. And this is where, as an adult, you must rise. Because your gut is going to want to say, well, so sad, too bad, fool, you should have done what I told you. No, we're parents, we're educators, we're teachers. All right? What we're going to say is, then show me by. Then show me by walking away from your sister. Then show me by sitting at the kitchen table and doing your homework. Then show me by putting your toys in the box. Then show me by putting your shoes in the closet. Do you hear the difference? Because you have to land on what you want. The brain needs to hear what we want, not what we don't want. So that's what this is going to look like as we move through very quickly. Your intent has to match your outcome. All right? And when it doesn't match, that's what gets us in trouble. Who's ever seen a behavior plan and the answer is we either give rewards or we have something taken away? Who's ever seen that? In the middle of there is a piece that's missing. We have to teach. And as parents, we're teachers. As teachers, we're parents. As we're all, the minute we chose to be in the presence of children, we became teachers. We became educators. So we have to pay attention to the detail. Everybody say detail. Detail. We have to pay attention to the detail. And I call it verbal artistry. We're going to be very, very, very clear about what it is we want, and we're going to practice. The brain loves association. Loves association. What I did was I took the word empower. That's what's on your handout. And then I'm going to give you little activities or strategies under each one of those letters. So E is going to stand for experience. Everybody say experience. Experience. Say it again. Experience. You do what you do because of what you see through your lens of life. How many different, somebody said, oh, that's not true, that'll never happen. We all have an opinion. Anybody know anybody has an opinion? We are very opinionated, all right? And we have opinions because we have a lens of life through which we look and we formulate ideas because of our life experience. But it's really easy to forget sometimes that other people have different lenses. And their experience might be driven differently because of what they see through their lens. And so when I get called, for example, to write behavior plans and I get involved in doing behavior stuff, it's that lens I'm looking through. It requires a little bit of an attitude adjustment. Look at this. Forces beyond your control to take away everything you possess except one thing. And that's your freedom to choose how you respond to a situation. We don't control situations. We want to. How many times? I'm losing control, I'm losing control. We want to control things, but the reality is the only thing we can control is ourselves. So I need you to go home, and when you walk in that house and you do a little panoramic stare, I want you to hear a voice in your head that says, I don't know what's going on in here, but I'm not killing my neurons over you. Because you're killing your neurons, y'all. You're aging, you're killing your telomeres. So we're going to practice that. I want you to look at the individual who you find upsetting or challenging because of their behaviors, and I want to hear you to hear voices in your head. And there's not going to be any drugs or alcohol required. All right? And those voices in your head are going to say things like this. Oh, you wait. You wait. I'm going to work this. I'm going to work this, and you're never going to see this coming. Because I'm older, and I'm going to work it. So every time something's going on, instead of focusing on the person and what you're going to do to change the person, you focus on yourself, you work that piece right there, and that's where the magic comes. You have to work yourself. Because I can promise you, everybody in here demonstrates a behavior you could live without. And if you don't think you have one, it either works with you or loves you, and they'll help you find it. You know what I mean? It's there. Some of us are funny looking when we're mad. You know? Things we need to pay attention to. First and foremost, a little empathy. When someone's behaving in a way that you're uncomfortable with, rather than jump to the conclusion as to why, I want you to remember they're seeing it through a different lens. They're seeing it through a different lens, and therefore their reaction might be somewhat different. I was here a while back. I think the last thing I did here, Cheryl had contacted me, and there was conversation about individuals in our field who were saying things like, I don't understand how you can say a nonverbal child is a communicator. And you should have seen my neck stretch about 30 feet. Because I know for a fact all behavior is communication. We communicate 80% of what we say without ever opening our mouth. Everybody sitting here, I want you to think about, from the minute you woke up this morning, how much information was going through your head, conversations you had in your head, with nobody else present. Sometimes we even say them out loud when nobody's present. You know what I'm saying? All the things. Then I need you to understand that those children in your care, those children with disabilities in your care, have those same voices in their head. There's not a person in this room who doesn't wake up every morning wanting to know what, why, when, where, how. Yes or no? Have you ever got the message that tells you to do something? You go like this, are you kidding me? Did everybody get this? Why do we have to do this? Remember that? Have you ever got a call from your significant other and said, are you picking up the kids? Wait, I thought you were picking up the kids. No, you're picking up. Oh my gosh, who's picking up the kids? Why? Because you couldn't anticipate. We're so cranky, we go into a restaurant and we place an order and they look at us and tell us they're out of it. And what do we think? Burn. We can't even make a decision. We've never even looked at the menu before. Because we go in and we go like this, oh my God, what are y'all having? I don't know, what are y'all having? Why do you give a flip what anybody else is having? You're going to get the same thing anyway. Because you walk in the restaurant you always go into, and you sit at the place you always sit, and you have the same waiter you always had. So what's the big deal? Why? Because we're creatures of habit. And we're creatures of habit because the lens we look through, and we have to realize that other people have lenses too. So sometimes there's just a little bit of an attitude adjustment. Who's ever seen this? I mean, this was around, like I saw this like ages ago on social media. It'd be like if a kid can't read, we teach him to read. If a kid can't do math, we teach him the skills to do math. If a child misbehaves, we punish. Why don't we teach? So let me ask you, where are you on the behavior response line here? So somebody comes and they say, we have a kid, I got one that says, we have a kid that steals things. And then what do they want to do? They want to know, what can we do to punish them? What do we need to do to teach them not to steal? What do we do? Okay, so a lot of times when there's a behavior that occurs, the first thing that adult brains say is, what are we going to do to them? You ever heard that? What are we going to do to them? My brain goes this way. It says, what's missing? I wonder. So the kid that's a thief, here's what my brain says. I wonder. I wonder if they can trade. I wonder if they can share. I wonder if they can check something out. I wonder if they can barter. I wonder if they can pick something up. Well, how do I get one to put that down? Because if I didn't teach you that, or they haven't had that experience through their lens, you're going to get a behavioral response. You see? Kids that hit. I wonder, do we know how to get our man out? We all know neighbor children who hit, yes or no? Right? And so what do we say? No hitting, no hitting, no hitting. If you hit again, burn in hell. Here's what's going to happen to you. Right? That's what we do. But let me ask you something. Look around this room. Every one of you has experienced anger at some point in time in your life. I mean, possessed. You know what I'm saying? Now, I want you to think about when you're mad. I want you to think about the things that you tolerate when you're angry. So let's play right here, man. Let's play like you're possessed. You're mad, you're angry, you're like living. Now, I don't know why she's mad. How many times have we been around another individual and we don't know why they're mad, yes or no? We don't. Then by default, we have to be smart enough to know what to try because we don't know. And we've been drilled, find the antecedent, find the antecedent. It took me 10 years just to say the frigging word antecedent. And I thought, antecedent? What is that? I know what that is. You know, what caused it? Well, you know what? Newsflash. I don't know. And I've been mad before. People go, why are you mad? I don't know. Just, I want to hurt something. You know, you're just mad. You're just twisted, yes or no? Okay, so we have this mad moment. So, you know, as adults, what do we immediately think? We got to make it stop. We're going to have a miraculous, we've got to stop it. And we want a miraculous healing right now. Stop it right now. No hitting right now. Okay, you as adult brains, have you ever tried to do right now? How's that working for you? Is anybody in here 30 or younger? If you're 30 or younger, put your hand up. See, y'all, there's a few over here. Okay, y'all are off the hook a little bit because your brain may not be finished cooking. But all the rest of you old fools, let me tell you something. Your brain's finished cooking for the most part, and you're still possessed. So what happens is, let's play like I walk in a room. I don't know why she's mad. I don't know why she's mad. Why do we focus on that? Why do we focus on what we don't know when we can be focusing on what we do know? And here's what I do know. I can tell you what she's not thinking. I can tell you, anybody who's angry, I can tell you what they're not thinking. I don't care if I'm in this country, another part of the world, age, gender, doesn't matter. If somebody's mad, I can tell you what they're not thinking. You ready? She sees me. I walk in the room. Here's what she's not thinking. Joe, I'm really angry right now, and I have a burning desire to throw things and hit somebody. But since you're in the room, why don't you just walk over and get close to me? Wow, I'm in a full-blown rage now. Why don't you just even get closer to me? I'm so angry right now, I want to throw and hit somebody. But you know what? Since you're here, why don't you touch me? Have you ever been touched when you're angry? That's when your teeth talk and go, you better get your hands off of me. Right? So what possesses us? And then I'm so freaked out. And I go, you need to just calm down. Oh. Have you ever been told to calm down when you were possessed? Do you remember when you wanted to rip the lips off someone's face? My point is this. We know what it's like to be angry. And we sure as heck know what it's like to be angry, and the people in the room don't understand. Right? And yet with our children, it's like, oh man, spontaneity, write the plan, detach, get a reward, take away things, boom, boom, boom. What? No healing? What's happening? Because that individual has a brain just like you. And they want to know the what, the whens, the hows, the whys. And we need to teach our kids how to get their mad out. So when you say don't hit, what did you teach them to do with their hands to get the mad out? And if one of you, so help me, raise your hand and says, oh, they have a squishy ball. They have a little thingy. Okay, I'm happy for you, but here's the thing. I'm walking down the hallway. I don't got my thingy with me. My thingy's in a backpack somewhere down the way. But I still have the burning desire right now to hit somebody. So how do you suppose I'm supposed to do that when my thingy's in the backpack down the road? Am I supposed to wait and get mad only there and there? I can only get mad here, 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 because that's where my thingy is? No. What we need to teach them what to do with their hands. Are they going to hit their own hand? Are they going to squeeze their own hand? Are they going to... I teach kids who love Elsa, who has major issues because she freezes people. But instead of telling the little girl, remember, no hitting, no hitting. There's a word in there that keeps going into the brain. What is it? Hitting, hitting, hitting. That's all they hear. I've got children that have come into adulthood that are non-verbal. And you know what? They're non-verbal except they can say damn, shit, and no. You want to explain that to me? How can you be non-verbal and no damn shit and no. Because they probably heard it a whole lot. That's what they heard the most, and that's what's stuck in the brain. So if you want your kids to say things and do things, we have to think about what are we sticking in their brain as opposed to reference. And if it's no, don't stop, that could be the challenge. So my little girl that loves Elsa, you know, I teach her to wrap the fake cake. Just wrap her arms like she's holding the cake. So instead of saying, remember when you're sitting by your sister, wrap your cake, instead of no hit it, right? Now, you can tell him, he's not going to do it. Did I say it's going to work? That's not going to work. But I can tell you this, it's a brain. And I'm feeding that brain. I'm feeding that brain. And at some point in time, that brain's going to click and it's going to start grabbing for information. And when it grabs, what's it going to grab? Wrap your cake or no hit. You hear the difference? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Y'all look like you're sad now. I'm not trying to make you sad. It's all about the details. So in my head, every time I speak to a child, every time I write a behavior plan, I'm looking in detail. All right, so I see the word detail, and then the words in my head go, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? So when you're describing expectations to your children, always say, what does it look like? What does it sound like? Clean up your room right now. What's the two words on the end that gotta go? Right now, because brains don't do right now. So what's left? Clean your room. But if we say clean your room by shoes in the closet, blocks in the box, you know, dirty clothes in the washing machine, anything. Just paint the picture. Finish your sentence. And that in and of itself can help teach our children. All right? M stands for myelination. Everybody say myelination. Okay, we're going to talk about some neuron pathways. Don't worry, your children never listen to you. Worry that they're always watching. Look at everybody. Oh, right? Our words, our body movement, what we do has to match what we're trying to teach. All right? So why is that such a big deal? Okay, I talked earlier about 30-year-olds. Look up here. This left hand here, this is going to be what I call amygdala. Everybody say amygdala. Okay, that's boring. Let's do something else. Everybody say almonds. Almonds. Really? What does that have to do with anything? Well, trivia. Amygdala is Greek for the word almonds, like the nut. And if you split your hemisphere and you saw the amygdala in your head, it actually looks like a slither of almond. I just figured back in the Greek Roman days, they smacked the head and went, oh, that looks familiar. Let's call it amygdala. Almond. Okay, anybody that knows me, who's been to my presentations before, I don't just call them almonds. Anybody remember what I call them? Screaming almonds. Everybody goes, screaming almonds. Screaming almonds. If you don't remember anything I teach you, I need you to remember screaming almonds. Because every time another human being is twisted and possessed, they're having screaming almonds. But here's the thing, we all have it. So my left hand's my screaming almonds. My right hand, 30 and younger, pay attention, this is your frontal lobe. Why is that such a big deal? Because your frontal lobe teaches you things. It's your higher order of thinking. And the most important thing I need you to remember is it understands long-term consequence. All right? That's why as parents we worry. When my daughter came up in junior and high school and said, Mom, can I stay out after curfew? Here was my response. Here, let me think about it. No. And then she went into, but Mom, and then she's telling me all about her friends, going to Applebee's or something, you know, and after a play from school. And it's because why? Children brains think and reason through the screaming almonds. How many have ever noticed children to be rather dramatic? They're touching me! Oh my God! Remember they go all wackadoodle like that? And we're going like this, oh my God, calm down. What's wrong with you? Here's a cup. That's not my cup! Remember that? Okay, and then we go, oh my God, get a grip. And we're like, what's the big deal? And then we even do it to our peers. How many of you have ever been and you walk in and one of your peers have a meltdown? And you go in and you're so empathetic and you go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then you leave the room and you go down the hall and you go, my office now. You go get your friend. And you go, oh my God, so-and-so, she didn't get a grip. She just come unglued. She didn't not that big a deal. Remember that? Remember how people didn't understand you and you were like coming unglued and they were going, it's no big deal? Well, the reason is this, the chemical release from the screaming almonds when you're upset does not match the episode. So I had screaming almonds when I had a near head-on collision in a car back in Panhandle, Texas. So of all places in the world I can die, I'm going to die in Panhandle, Texas. When that car's coming at me, I can tell you, my screaming almonds released a significant amount of chemistry. The same amount of chemistry that a child's brain can release because somebody's sitting too close. So what do we learn from that? When we speak to our kids, we don't judge it. We don't say things like it's no big deal. You need to calm down. Just take a breath. It's all going to be fine. Because in that moment, it's not so fine. All right? It's not so fine. When Hallie has to go out, all she's thinking about is her friends. She's in the now. Y'all, our children live and breathe and think through the now. We are wired for the future. So when Hallie said, can I stay after curfew? She's thinking chips, salsa, friends in a booth, laughing hysterically, talking about play. What I'm thinking about is, she's at volleyball practice tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. When they drive, they're going to go down St. Mary Street, and it's college night, which means the kids are going to be out at the bar. See, because why? We are wired to worry about the future. And they're in the now. So if you want to reach your children, you need to use examples in the now and not things about down the road, even though that's what we worry about, if that makes sense. All right, so those kinds of things. The frontal lobe. Now look at my hands. Watch what happens. You walked in here today. Here's your chemistry, nice and balanced. Having an okay day. Then you might have saw somebody that you don't care for too much. Watch the chemistry. Screaming almonds released. The minute your screaming almonds releases chemistry, it starts to slow down and shut down the frontal lobe. Why is that important? Think back when you were angry. Have you ever been so angry you go like this? I can't talk about this right now. I don't want to talk about this right now. You start walking away, or people walk away from you, and you go, you come back here and finish this conversation. I don't want to talk to you right now. I can't do this. Remember that? That was your body saying, you're real stupid right now, and I'm going to make you move out of here before you say something you wish you hadn't. Because when you're upset, your brain can't process efficiently to have a civil conversation, and then you say things you wish you hadn't. So when you're moving away, that's your body's ability to say, your brain's not real wise right now, we're going to move. But if our children are having that, how do they move? Where are they going to go? How are they going to get their mat out? They can't call in work and say that they're sick and then go to the movies at Albert's Rack House and have wonderful food and beverage. You know what I mean? So we need to think about that. This is all part of the start. When we talk to our kids, we need this here. Because if we do this, I want you to look at behavior. Can we agree that we recognize when we're having a good day? Yes or no? Do we recognize that? Yes or no? How about this? Gonna be one of those days. Remember that? We just know. It's like we have instincts. Gonna be one of those days. Yes? Who can recognize a full-blown episode outburst? You ever seen one of those? How about them coming out of it? You ever notice that? And now it's over. We are masterful of seeing here, 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 here. But we suck at what we're supposed to be doing along here, 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 here. So let's go up here to a full-blown episode. Full-blown episode. There's some absolute, unequivocal, non-negotiables in a full-blown episode. Did you know that? Let me give you an example. How many of you have ever been around a child or a young adult or an adolescent who's having a meltdown and there's other adults present? Who's ever seen that? Well, let me tell you the number one rule. Number one rule. When someone speaks, only one person speaks to the individual in crisis. One. And you and I both know multiple adults speak. What's wrong? What's happening? What can I do? Everybody, the minute a lot of people are talking, you invalidate your crisis plan. You ready for this? This is going to make you're going to break eye contact. The one adult who speaks must have the skill to understand that absolutely, unequivocally, when you're dealing with a child, an adolescent, an adult, anybody that's angry, the person who's speaking absolutely, unequivocally uses no phrasing that ends in a question mark. And you and I both know what's wrong, what's happening, what can I do, what's going to happen, you better get right. The minute you put a question mark at the end of the phrase, you've invalidated your response, and it's probably going to get worse. Crazy, right? Y'all just want to look at me right now. You're like, shh. Now you say, what are we supposed to do? When someone is a full-blown, if you don't remember anything I teach, remember this, when they're in a full-blown episode, all you have to do is validate. You say things like, crying tells me you're so sad right now. Hitting tells me you're so angry. Running away says you're frustrated. I'm so sorry that you're hurting. I wish I knew a way to make it better. You validate the person who's having a meltdown. You don't try and have a conversation and fix them in that moment. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Okay, so I wish I could keep going on this. We're going to do a little bit more. And then in just a few minutes, if y'all can hang on, you're going to have a little conversation with each other. Just a side note, here's some of the stuff about screaming almonds. It's your fight or flight, it's your emotion center. And here's the thing, y'all. There are memory layers. So look at here, this is important. If you look at my age of 69, I have got a whole, when things happen in your life, they don't just go away. Who's ever heard of PTSD? Who's ever heard of trauma, triggers, those kinds of things? All of that information goes, once something has occurred, it stores back in the screaming almonds. So it makes layer after layer after layer, like a Trinity cake, okay? Layer after layer after layer. So what happens is, watch, I'm going to do this, and it's very painful, I'm going to do it anyway, just watch. So what will happen is, sometimes when you least expect it, one of those memory layers, trauma, something sad, sneaks out and just comes running to the forefront. It can be stimulated by a memory, a song, a smell, a movement, an individual. And all of a sudden, when that stuff comes to the top, it starts to create this, you see what's happening? Because I pulled a memory, but watch what happens. I can take that memory, watch, I'm going to get my voice back. Did y'all tell us about to cry? I'm going to cry. Okay, so what happens is, when that layer comes out, I have layers of joy, trauma, joy. You know what I'm saying? I grab one of my joy layers and I bring it out and I smash it down. So when I feel that coming up, I start thinking about my daughter Hallie. She's my joy. And so what happens is, I feel it coming, I can feel the tears coming, I can feel the memories coming, and then all of a sudden I put in my head, Hallie. I see her face, I see her smile, and look, my voice changes, and I'm back, right? As parents, as adults, to each other, we are contributing to those layers in the brain. So my question to you is, what layer are you going to be in the brain of your child? Are you going to be a layer that they can pull out to suppress something bad that's happened? Or are you going to be just one more layer of stuff that causes so much pain and so much anxiety? You see? Right. And so and sometimes we do it, and we do it on purpose, and sometimes it happens and it's not on purpose. But I need you to think about every child, every person, every relationship you have, and think of all the layers they have. So when I get called to school to write a plan, a lot of times that kid's got so many trauma layers, it's hard for them to have something to pull up, to slam down. So that becomes my quest. That becomes our job as adults, to create that opportunity for them. Because it's going to store in the screaming almonds. All right? It's going to store in the screaming almonds. As opposed to the frontal lobe, Check this out, age-wise.
I'm used to those.
And look, think of the age of your children. That frontal lobe doesn't start to really understand that long-term consequential stuff. It starts to learn around the age of 11 or 12. 10, 11, 12. So if you've got children younger than 10, 11, or 12, thank you. Those kids, and you're trying to impress upon them the future, why it's so important, they're not listening. They're in the now. So they need now help, not future help. You know, think about it. So those kinds of ages are coming up right there. Okay. Let me think. I'm going to pause here. And what I want you to do, just going to pause here for a minute. And what I want you to do is I want you to turn to a partner. And I want you to think of one thing I've said that is stuck in your head. Maybe it started back about the phone. Maybe it's about the proximity thing. You know, something I said that you just went, whoa, I didn't see that one coming. And all I want you to do is share with a neighbor, you know, something that you thought, I need to remember this. I need to remember this when I walk out here. So I want you to share, and then stare at me. You're only going to get like a minute and a half. So share, point, and then stare at me. Go. Y'all, is this making a little bit of sense, yes or no? Okay, good. Well, let's keep going here. Okay, so this is about proactive versus reactive. And the reality is, a lot of times in our family unit, we're pretty reactive because we're not sure exactly what to do. You may be able to control someone's behavior. You may not be able to do that, but you can control how long you participate in it. Think about it. We are active participants in the behaviors of other human beings, all right? I need you to understand that our children with disabilities, doesn't matter what age they are, again, it's about the human brain, and all brains want to anticipate. All brains want to anticipate. So it's very important that all brains appreciate using visuals if they're able to access that. If someone has a visual impairment, then they appreciate auditory input. But the more we can anticipate, a lot of times we can alleviate some of the anxiety of what's going on. And I see it, and I'm talking about the detail. Remember the detail. What does it look like? What does it sound like? When I see folks that are not in motorized wheelchairs and they require somebody to push them, how many times somebody will come up, maybe it's a transition time or actually they'll just grab the chair, they're talking to another adult in the room, and they just start pushing the chair. And I'm like, no. And then when they get in the chair, hyperextends and hits their head and bites their hand, the person pushing them goes, oh, they're just excited to go somewhere. And I said, no. It's called a startle reflex. They're having to process. Who are you? Where are we going? Why are we moving? It's about dignity, y'all. And then some people say, well, they don't understand, or they can't hear, or they can't. You know what? So what? How do you know for sure? How do you know for sure? I always err on the side of dignity and respect. When I go in to talk, and I talk to babies all the time. People probably get me arrested. I walk into Walmart and there's a baby in a cart, you know, and they're sitting there and they're making noises, and I'll go up, and while they're crying, I'm sitting going, shh, shh, and spitting all over them. The baby will be crying, and I'll go up and I go, right? Man, who thought of that particular structure for you to ride around in? That's gotta be miserable. And the baby looks at me like, and I'll say, and then the baby might make a sound. And the second that baby makes a sound, I go, I know, right? I was thinking about that too. It's really fun. Y'all, actually, I saw a video a while back. The dad was so cool with his son, little infant. I mean, a baby. And that baby says, are you ever do it? And the dad's going, right, I knew that. And it's hilarious. This huge conversation. Y'all, you might say, well, my child's not verbal, my child can't form sentences. They have a brain. And that brain is having conversation. And that brain is having a desire to anticipate. That brain wants to be included. We have to pay attention to these things. You know, and it's going to start with us. So any kind of anticipation cues, again, physically, if you've got a child that's not mobile or whatever, and you have to make physical contact, always touch the hand first. We communicate a lot. And people say, well, what if they don't have hands? Then move up the digit. You know, you simply have to make sure that someone can anticipate. If you walk away, say you're walking away. Say when you're coming back. If you're going to identify yourself. I remember I was in a state the mother's son had come home from a residential program for a stay. And she told me that he has these rituals, and every time he sat on the sofa next to her, and I was at their home, he sat there, and as soon as I sat down, he grabbed her left hand, and he was spinning her wedding ring. Just spinning. And, you know, he's rocking and spinning, he's nonverbal. And she said, oh, this is one of his stemming activities. He stems off my ring. And I looked at the mom and I said, well, we're going to agree to disagree. I said, for me, observing, it was extremely clear. Let me tell you what your son's saying right now. Oh my God, Mom, I'm so glad to be home. I'm so glad it's you sitting here on the sofa. I said, that he is acknowledging you, the mom. I said, right? I'm talking to the kids. And I'm saying, right? I'll let him in on your little secret. We both know you're not stemming off your mom's ring. And I'm talking to him. Because he's sitting there and he's an adult. And it doesn't matter. What can he hear? I don't know. But he has the right to know that I acknowledge that he's present. So I was talking to him about how we're going to let his mom know in our little secret. And the mom just burst into tears. She goes, all this time, I never even realized he acknowledged me. And I said, he qualitatively, I said, tell your mom, tell her, you qualitatively looked different, your groaning was different, your body movement was different in the presence of your mom than any other person I saw you with today. And I said, he knows it's you. Why? Because he has a brain. And he's having a conversation in that brain. And you need to acknowledge that out of respect for your son. You know, we don't think about that stuff. It always starts with us. You need to think about how you move, how you speak. If you don't remember anything I teach you, this is what you do when your child's in crisis. You do the opposite. If they're loud, you talk a lot lower volume. If they're talking rapidly or making a lot of sound, you slow it down. If their bodies are moving rapidly, you slow it down. If you have children that are very involved and you're approaching them like to snap them into the chair or to do their seat belts or to feed or any of those kinds of things, you talk what you're doing. You verbally describe it. I call it verbal artistry. Do things like don't stick a toothbrush in your kid's mouth and squeeze their jaw and do all this kind of stuff or hold them down while you're trying to eat. No, you want your children to eat and enjoy things. You eat and enjoy. Model. Let them see. Let them feel. Let them experience what you're doing. And y'all, my dad died a couple years ago, and he had vascular dementia. And it was fascinating taking care of my daddy at the end. Don't look at me. My daddy was 5'3", weighed 112 pounds. He was a little peanut. And so, y'all go, ooh, your mom must have been at Amazon. No, she was trying to. I mutated. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I remember like my dad, my sister, who's in the field as well, she's a para, she would say things like, you know, I can't get Daddy to brush his teeth right, whatever. And so I asked her, she's in there doing, I said, you know, come on, sis. So I'm so tall, I stood behind Daddy, and I would get my own toothbrush. And I'd say, okay, Dad, show me your toothbrush. He'd put it up, and I'd put toothpaste. I'd say, okay, Daddy, watch me. Hey, Daddy, look, go back here. And he's watching me in the mirror. He watched everything I did. My sister calls me, and she says, now don't do this with your kids. I need you to do age appropriate, all right? So my dad was not drinking water. He needed to hydrate. I mean, all the parents don't hydrate, right? He wouldn't hydrate. So my sister goes, and she fixed the big glass with the ice and mark it off. Daddy, you need to drink this at 10 and this, you know, like Dr. Pepper, 10, do it for him. You know, made him drink all this stuff. And she goes, Daddy wants, and I said, well, he drinks for me all the time. Because I was being confident. Daddy drinks for me all the time. She goes, well, how do you get Daddy drink? And I said, well, just come over when I'm over there one day. So I walk in there with a pitcher of water, and I got 2 shot glasses. And I said, Daddy, man, I am so thirsty, I'm parked. Daddy, I need a hit. How about you? Yep, gave me shot glasses. My daddy and I did water shots. All afternoon, water shots. Got all the water that I needed to. I had to approach him where he was at. Where was my daddy at mentally? Where was my dad at cognitively? I had to meet him where he was at, and I had to honor his desires and be respectful. You know, as he was on his deathbed and they were trying to get ice chips in him, he would moan and groan. And I'd say, Susie, are you describing? Daddy, I have a purple spoon hovering over your face. Daddy, I'm going to come down and it's going to touch your lower lip. Daddy, when you feel that plastic purple spoon touch your lower lip, I want you to open your mouth just a little, and I'm going to slide in a tiny, tiny chip about the size of a Sonic. I went to where he was at. He knew Sonic Eyes. He knew, you know what I'm saying? So when he's, I go up and I'm describing, and you see him go calm, and I touch his lip, and he opens up his mouth, and down goes the Sonic chip. You know, and it was just simply by being dignified and by approaching him where he was at, approaching him where he was at chronologically and cognitively, and at the same time honoring that. I was at a school a while back that they were talking about adult programming. And I walked down the hallway and they've got a Head Start early childhood thing going off the computer about the weather. And I'm watching these 25 to 50-year-olds in there learning about the weather by some little animated character going, it's Monday, I'm like, what the heck? You're an adult program. What's happening here? And you know what they always like? Well, this is the same place where I'm walking down the hallway. They're talking to me, oh, Miss Mascara, we do this and this and this and this. Oh my God, you're so cute! What is that? We're not going to talk about programming. We need to work on this voice thing going on. You're supposed to be modeling for the community, that you're here to respectfully teach these individuals how to work in the down community. I don't want them taking my kid in because they feel sorry for them. I don't want them taking my kid in because they have a disability. I want them to take my kid in because they can have a conversation and they can do part of the job and they can do these things. And the disability, oh yeah, they got that too. You know what I'm saying? And so I go in there, she goes, well, they don't know the days of the week. And this, I said, okay, great. But you know what? We're going to get, I said, please, let's get all that off of there. And I said, you know what the National Weather Bureau is? How many of you ever picked up the phone and checked the weather? You ever do that? I do it every day because I travel so much. And you know what? I pull up and it gives me the 10-day forecast, the 5-day forecast. And you know what it shows me? Here's the weather on Monday. Here's the weather on Tuesday. Here, what was the weather yesterday? It's the same thing. But it doesn't look like a primary color animated character dancing across a river in a boat. You know what I'm saying? So all we did was tweak it. And so the next day, they were so good, the next day, they went, all these guys they all had phones. Everybody in my class had phones. So they had to download the weather app. And then they showed them how to check the weather every morning and decide what you're going to wear. What's going to go? You need an umbrella. You know, if you're going to ride the bus, you need this, you need that. That's how we contribute to our kids. Does that make sense, yes or no? And it's very subtle. We're honoring where they're at, but we meet them where they're at. in a way that's going to allow others to see what they're able to do versus what they're not able to do. See, here's what happens in relationships. You see where it says support, tolerate, enable? I want you to think about this. Who's ever been in a relationship? Aren't they fun? Okay, any kind. Work, personal, our kid. We all go through life in relationships, yes or no? Well, you all know, especially if you're in a personal relationship, in order for that to occur, you have to support somebody. You support that individual. Whether it's work, you support one another, yes or no? You want to know they got your back. But in order to do that, there is no perfect relationship. We know that. Most relationships are like 80-20. 80% of you I adore, 20% not so much. But you know what? I tolerate it. And I tolerate it because I really appreciate and love the rest of it. Yes or no? But here's what happens. Sometimes we tolerate so much, we start to enable. So here's what I figured, I was thinking about this, I was taking a walk, I get these ideas while I'm moving yard, doing stuff, and this came to me, I said, you know what, how do I know I'm enabling? How do I know I go from tolerate to enable? Here's what happens. If you ever find yourself saying, in your head, the voices, no drugs or alcohol required, it's just easier. It's just easier to tie their shoes. It's just easier to pack their backpack. It's just easier to put the clothes on. It's just easier to feed them myself. It's just the minute you hear a voice in your head say, it's just easier, you are becoming an enabler, which needs to send you back to support and rethink the expectations, rethink the anticipation cues, rethink the things that we do in order to establish boundaries and expectations. Does that make sense a little bit? I just want you to practice that. And y'all, you've never heard me say, oh, this is so easy. None of it's easy. None of it's easy, but it's something we can do. Why? Because we want folks to own their behavior. This we've already covered. We've already covered this. Education is the learning of facts, not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. We owe it to our children to teach them to think. And I'm going to tell you right now, just overall culturally, across the world, whether it's gen ed or spec ed, we're missing it. And I swore to God I'd never say when I was a kid, but when I was a kid. You know, children don't have opportunities as they did when I was a child to explore, to go out, to fail, to do things. The greatest gift you can give your child for minute periods of time, you know what it is? Boredom. Let them be bored, because through boredom comes innovation. Through boredom, they have to think, what can I do with this? What can I do to entertain? What can I do to think? What can I do to inspire? What can I do to engage? They're already, the school, state of Texas is finally moving to, you're going to see next year, a lot of districts are removing cell phones. And I don't want you parents calling around about why your kid needs a cell phone. They still got landlines. You ever heard of landlines? They still got landlines. They're there. When there's emergencies, we can get to you. All right, we panic. This generation of parents is the most guarded generation of hovering parents over the children in the history of our country. But if you look at the data, what's happening in our children is at an all-time low in terms of safety and concern. It seems like it's more because in social media, we see things now in real time. And social media puts it in our face. A lot of stuff has gone on for a long time we just never knew about. So I'm just telling you, it's so hard not to panic. Okay, we talked about describing behavior tells me that, then show me. This is the other thing. When you're setting parameters, I want you to set parameters by environment. So you make statements like, in this house, in this car, at your school, in this classroom. Our children need to learn that we alter behavior based on where we're at and who we're with. Men in the room, look at me, I'm going to tell you something about the women in here that's going to shock you. Shock you. Are you ready? Men, there are women in this room who cuss. There are women in this room who have actually dropped the F-bomb in proper context, in a conversation, in a public place. But here's what we know. We pick and choose where we behave. We pick and choose what we do. Our children need to see that. Y'all ladies, the hardest thing about coming out of COVID was putting a bra back on. It's like, dang. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. See, no filter, old ladies, no filter. You see what I'm saying? I mean, those little details that we know when you go home, you cut loose a little bit. You know, those kinds of things. Our children need to learn that. Our children with disabilities need to learn that. That there is when you cannot make a behavior go away, you give it a time and a place. So when you give it a time and a place, sometimes that helps our kids figure out the things that they can do or not do. All right? So parameter development, so tell me if you can hear this. You might say, in this house, it's not an option to hit somebody when you're mad. You can want to hit them. You can want to hit them back. They can deserve it. But see, in this house, we don't hit when we're mad. And then what we typically say is, let me tell you what's going to happen if you hit again. Did you hear it? Burn it in hell. Did you hear it? What we should be saying is, let me tell you what you can do to get your mad out. Let me tell you what you can say. You can't say the F word at school, but you can say farkle. You know, you can say proboscis. You know, you can say fuddle duddle. Just can't say the other word. Do you see? So sometimes, and you make it fun and you make it a game, and the younger they are, the more you can make it those kinds of ways. Y'all, our children, we all are striving. We want independence. And that's a good, because our children will not rise to low expectations. But the reality is, we look at that and we push and we push, and it's okay. When we achieve that, celebrate. But you know what? Some of our kids are going to achieve partial participation. They may not be able to gather the trash, but they can take it from the kitchen and put it out in the bin. They may not be able to set the table by taking the plates out of a cabinet. But once they're on the table, maybe they can put them in front of something. And we celebrate partial participation. We don't hold them, but if that's what they can do, then by God, they do that. But on the same tone of the same, y'all, professional people out there, I'm going, please. When I walk in, I see you hovering over an individual who's extremely physically challenged, and you're manipulating them to carve out clay, to make ornaments or whatever, and their bodies are so involved. What the hell? Why can't you not sit across from that person, and instead of hovering over there and manipulating them into a situation that there's a high probability they're not enjoying, and sit across from them and speak to them as an adult, and roll out that clay and look them in the eye across from them and say, God, this clay is really rough. You've got to put some pressure here. And as you cut the ornament, say things like, I don't know, should we do angels or stars? I'm kind of thinking about that. You know what that person's going to do? They're going to go, And you know what you're going to say? I thought maybe angels. That's a good one. Let's go with that. And you're going to engage like that. And you know what you're going to hear? You're going to hear intonations change. You're going to hear guttural sounds change. You're going to see them look and look away. Because for the first time, you're engaging them as a human being, not a person with a disability. And you're engaging them to the brain that wants to know. If I hear one person say, oh, they don't want to be around people. Really? We are wired as human beings to be a social animal. Years ago, I had a conversation with a young man who had autism. And I was talking to him about a young man that I was working with that was very young. And I said, I need you to talk about when you were young and got mad. And he shared with me a story that he was angry one time at recess because he was standing there and he wasn't social. And the teacher kept saying, go play, go play, go play. So he said, Joe, I played with rocks. I was playing with rocks, and then now the teacher's yelling at me, no, don't throw the rocks. And in my brain, I'm thinking, I'm playing with the rocks. She said, go play, and now she's saying, don't play. And he goes, I had autism, I had autism, it was hard. And he said, yes, I did hit her. But you tell that little boy that autism does not make you hit. He goes, I hit that teacher because I thought the teacher should know that I couldn't find my words. I hit because I couldn't find my words, not because I was mad. I was upset because she told me play and then I couldn't play. She didn't teach me what playing looked like and sound like. And he used those words and I was like, what? Right? So sometimes we just have to know that, is it independence? We have to teach it. If it's partial, we have to teach it. But we also have to teach and honor what it looks like to have a quality interaction with someone because of dignity and respect. All right? Okay, here's what I need you to do. This is going to be fast and furious. I need you to turn to a neighbor and I need you to commit. Commit to one thing you're going to practice, one thing you're going to do, and I want you to commit to another person you're going to share something with. So I need you to turn, you're going to have 3 minutes, and I want you to share what you're going to commit to, try, and share who you're going to share it with. The timer's up. When it's all the green is gone, we finish up. So go ahead right there. We're going to wrap up in just a second. Share, and share. Share a commitment. Share who you're going to share with. And we're done. Yeah.
The main thing that she's saying is that
Let's go back to you.
especially if they're sick, they don't want to hear like a little they want to like talk like you, that's why she's talking about the way they're at now. I'm not going to talk about it's like sort of degrading. So that's just how you approach it, especially when you're behavioral like that's one thing I also love that you see how instead of asking a question, just tell something. I understand.
Hands up. All right, so as we get to the end, on your paper, I had a couple slides, but they say what's on your paper. So under ownership, we talked about that watch. Remember, they're watching you. That all behavior is communication. When we want communication to end, when we want behavior to stop, our job is to slow it down, to prevent it from getting worse by distracting, to disengage. That's what we do. We distract. We listen to music. We do something. We take a walk. We distract. Under expectations, if you think about what's important to you, if you cluster in three. Sometimes that's easier for the brain to remember. I talked about the chronological age appropriateness and how to be clear. Under this is the last one. This was under role model. And I want you to look at that last line, because that's what I want you to remember. As time goes by, they're children once, but we're adults forever. Which layer are you going to contribute? What's going to happen in the course of the day? Give yourself some grace if you have a rough day, and not be afraid to go back and try again. I want to read this to you because it's hard to see, but I want you to listen up. Today was the absolute worst day ever, and don't ever try and convince me that there's something good in every day, because when you take a closer look, the world's a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, satisfaction and happiness doesn't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and heart, because true happiness can be obtained only if one's surroundings are good. It's really not true that good exists. I'm sure you can agree to that. Reality creates my attitude. It's all beyond my control, and you never in a million years hear me say that today is a good day. Every day we make a statement and we talk about how bitter and angry we are because of the lens we're looking through. But watch what happens and listen to what happens when I take that exact same thing and I'm going to read it backwards. Listen to the message. Today is a good day, and you'll never in a million years hear me say that it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates reality. I'm sure you can agree that it's really not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be obtained because it's all in the mind and heart. And it's not true that satisfaction and happiness doesn't last. Some goodness does shine through once in a while, even if the world is a pretty evil place, because when you take a closer look, there's something good in every day. And don't ever try and convince me that today was the absolute worst day. Practice. Just always remember you're talking to a brain. The brain wants the same thing you do. And when it's all said and done, we have to clear each slate and start every morning fresh. This is my actual, you can't hardly hear it. Oh, there was a song played. But anyway, there it is. This is my funeral song, y'all. Start every morning clean, happy, be kind to one another.